first, we're going to start with the 49ers versus Seahawks recap. And, let me just tell you, Brock Purdy might have had his best game in his career so far. Brock Purdy absolutely lit it up against the Seahawks. I feel like maybe the game was kind of close in the first half, but then the 49ers really started to pull away. Deebo Samuel had another incredible game, and really the play of the game that a lot of people, have been posting the highlights of, has really been that play where Purdy just hit Deebo beautifully in stride. You saw that play, right?
I know I mentioned the only play I saw was the McCaffrey 72-yard run to start the game, but yes, I saw that multiple times. And the first time I was just like, oh, Deebo, there you go. He's on fire. And then I saw it a second time on Fox, and I just watched the release and the curvature, and I see Deebo running in stride, and it's like he just has his hands like this for like what's probably 2 full seconds, and it just falls right into his hands perfectly.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Dude. So like literally I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, all right, as soon as I saw Brock Purdy wind up, I went, oh yeah. Whereas in the past, with every other 49er quarterback that I've, grown up watching, I'm like, oh no, like I have never felt this confident in like, passes being thrown and, that are not going to get intercepted or that aren't going to be risky. Brock Purdy has just absolutely been checking every single box. I remember a couple of weeks ago, I said, he only utilizes a portion of the field, but he has absolutely opened it up. The past several weeks, he's been completing more passes, and that wasn't even the only deep pass that he hit. Like, Brock Purdy was on fire yesterday, and really he's been on fire the past couple of weeks. And I don't know about you, Mike, but I think we have an MVP candidate emerging in Brock Purdy.
I do agree with that. I think, I've seen a lot of people saying that it's going to come down to Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts. And I think, honestly, I can take those two guys out of the equation right now. They can come back into it at the end. We still have the last quarter of this season to go. But I think it's clearly between two guys right now, and that's Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott.
I 100% agree, but I will add in two names that should be considered, but probably won't be because the MVP is a quarterback, pretty much every year. But Christian McCaffrey should absolutely be considered for it, and Tyreek Hill should absolutely also be in the contention. It should be between those four players, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb have absolutely been connecting, and like last night, they lit up the Eagles, and I think Jordan in our group chat put a picture where it was like Dak Prescott to CeeDee Lamb this season, and then he put like it was like a GIF of Montana to Rice, and I'm not willing to make that comparison, but I know he is because both of those guys are on his fantasy team, courtesy of Mike.
Mm-hmm. They were on my fantasy team earlier this season, and I was in desperation mode, but Dak wasn't doing it to start the season, and I would say the thing about Dak and Purdy, they've both had their slow starts to the season, or I would say their slumps, because Dak started off slow and Purdy had that 3-game stretch, right? But ever since, I'd say both of these teams' bye weeks, these quarterbacks have just been going,
Yeah, so you almost forget that this 49er team had that 3-game skid. They started off 5-0, lost 3 games in a row, and now they're 5-0 again. Knock on wood that 3-game skid is not going to happen again. That would probably, that would ruin Christmas for me. But,
well, I mean, Christmas is an interesting day to bring up, obviously, because they're facing the Ravens that day, but no need to look ahead yet. What I will say is, what hasn't been mentioned yet, I don't think by you, but the Niners are the 1 seed.
They are the 1 seed again. And
currently.
man,
And
like
I
it
just,
feels
my
like
thing is that 3-game skid happened, and I was like, all these Niner fans getting all up in arms and nervous. I'm like, I know they're fine. I don't even care if you're the 3 seed. You guys are fine. But now everything is gone almost as good as it can besides that 3-game skid. You're the 1 seed. You have the head-to-head, matchups against the Eagles and the Cowboys in case of a tiebreaker. And even if you get in the tiebreaker with the Lions, apparently you have that on them too somehow, probably with beating one of those 2 teams. So honestly, at this point, now that you are the 1 seed and, in my opinion, clearly the best team in football right now, all you have to do is win. Just keep winning. You will get that 1 seed, and it's going to be a lot of fun, I think, for Niner fans
mhm.
come playoff
Yeah,
time.
I I'm pretty happy that they were able to reclaim the 1 seed yesterday. Yeah, I mean, just there is a certain sort of relief where it's like, all right, the NFC Championship game, let's just say if it were, if we're in the playoffs, assuming that the Niners advance in the divisional round, the NFC Championship game would have to go through, the Niners' house. And I don't know. I prefer the team to play at home always. Like that's just, you know, I wouldn't want to see the 49ers have to travel to Philadelphia again, And that's not to say that I'm scared of the Eagles or that the Niners couldn't beat the Eagles again. They dismantled the Eagles like a week ago. I just think that, I don't want there to be any jet lag or, any complications with the travel or anything. I want it to just, be in I think I think Santa Clara has beautiful weather, pretty much almost year round, or at least football season, like the entire football season for the most part. Mike, did we lose you or is that just your camera? All right, I think we lost Mike for a second. He'll come back in, but um, I just have to say that going back to the whole Brock Purdy thing, uh, I feel pretty confident that Brock Purdy is a great quarterback. I don't really have any doubts about him anymore. And you know, if he's going to be playing like that, he can absolutely win the MVP, bring this team to the promised land, and the sky's the limit with this football team right now. Another player that I briefly mentioned, just a couple minutes ago was Debo Samuel. If Debo's going to be playing like that, my goodness, it does so much because in that 3-game losing streak, they didn't have Debo Samuel, and really like at the time, Debo Samuel wasn't really contributing as much as he is right now. Um, we're getting 2021 Debo right now. That's how
Yeah,
crazy he's playing.
this is
Like
prime
he
Devo.
he is not the rushing threat that we needed him to be like a couple years ago, but he is absolutely like every time the ball is in his hands, I see it in his eyes. He's looking towards the end zone again. And as long as he can keep that up, defenses are not going to know who to hone in on because it's like, all right, then they try to focus on Debo and then Kittle gets going and then Ayuk got going. And then it's, I don't even remember McCaffrey really having that big of a game except for the 72-yard rush, to start off the game. Um, but really it was a full team effort. I think the defense played, pretty well. Um, going on to the Seahawks, I know that going into the week, I had mentioned that DK Metcalf is one of those players where if you're physical with him, he will mentally check out of the game. And it almost like perfectly resolved itself, or at least it perfectly lived up to that, to the way I what's the word I'm looking for, Mike? The way I
Envisioned.
envisioned or described it.
Yeah.
Because Fred Warner got an interception, and then DK Metcalf suplexed Fred Warner. And to me, I think the suplex is fine. It is kind of like Dre Greenlaw got thrown out of the game a week prior because the security guard got in his face after he suplexed Devonta Smith, and he got flagged for that. So it's kind of like inconsistent officiating with with the refs. Like if they're gonna throw the flag on Dre Greenlaw, on the play last week, they should have thrown it for DK Metcalf right there. But I mean, DK Metcalf did eventually draw a 15-yard penalty and got disqualified from the game once he like tried to smash Fred Warner's face mask in. Like, I feel like if DK Metcalf really wanted to, he probably could like bend that face mask, but it was a crazy thing to watch because after Fred Warner got suplexed, Fred Warner gave, I think it's a pretty dirty hit after the fact, where Warner just sort of like, hit DK in the back of the head, like as he was on the ground. Like that can be pretty dangerous, I think. If you hit somebody like in the back of the head, especially without a helmet. I think with a helmet, it's like a little bit more protected, but still. And then obviously DK Metcalf retaliated after that. And, they always talk about it's always the second person who gets in trouble, or, the second person who gets caught. So, I mean, really, Fred Warner was the second person. And then DK had his final say. And then after that, Diamador Lenore got into it and then threw a sucker punch to Jake Bobo and then got tossed too. And to me, I see why both players got tossed. Like it made sense to me why both got tossed. So I'm not really upset that Diamador Lenore got tossed. Like it was perfectly understandable. But, aside from that, the 49ers should be done with the Seahawks unless they make the playoffs. And in order to make the playoffs, I wouldn't mind if the Seahawks went on to beat the Eagles this week. So, it's going to be a bird fight, and the 49ers are going to be playing their own set of birds coming up this upcoming week. Let me go back. Let me add something to the whole Seahawks recap while I'm at it. Mitch Wishnowski's punt, his fake punt. Mike, welcome to the show. We're gonna go back to the Raiders in 1 second. Mitch Wishnowski's fake punt, the fact that he did it, on his own, it wasn't a called fake punt, was amazing.
I did see that play as well.
I had to add that in. Too bad it was called back because of Ronnie Bell's, I think chop block, or he tripped and then a player fell over him. I think it was clipping officially, but it was awesome.